I was born into horses. My father actually trained horses because we were too poor to be able to buy trained horses. So we would buy and sell horses as kids to be able to pay for our bad habit. And horse people are crazy, and we were part of the crazy people. But I just loved Arabians. My father was into quarter horses and reiners, and I loved Arabians and hackney ponies and saddlebreds, and my whole family was into quarter horses, and they thought I was nuts because I liked Arabians, and I just loved being around Arabians. And when we went to the open shows when I was a kid, there was this little girl, Paula Lessa. She used to kick my butt all the time. And she always had this big, beautiful gray Arabian. I wanted a gray Arabian because I was constantly getting beat by this gray Arabian. So my father bought me this gray quarter horse named Miss Howdy Cutie because he thought that was going to break my love for Arabians. So I broke her to drive.
I don't think I've seen a quarter horse drive before.
Because, I wanted a hackney pony or an Arabian. So what do? Give me a quarter horse, I'm going to make it drive. So I drove her. And finally, my brother and I, as we got older, started breaking and training horses for other people, and everybody in our area had a lot of Arabians. So we started getting into the Arabians, and eventually my family owned an Arabian training stable in Bloomfield, New York. When we started getting into that farm, then my parents started really getting into Arabians and breeding Arabians, and my mother and father started dealing with Sheila Varian and a man in Texas called Bill Stokes, named Bill Stokes, Tranquility Farms, and we started buying a lot of horses from them and breeding horses with them, and buying and selling horses, and then the whole family started to get into the Arabians. One of the biggest things that I've noticed with the Arabians, I had a great little mare when I was a kid, not really a kid, but a teenager. She was an Ivanhoe Sultan daughter. She's a half Arab mare, and her name was Sienna. David Boggs was Canadian national champion with her back in the early 80s. And she was my first horse that I showed that did really well. And as I got older, she ended up being the next walk trot horse, the next 13 and under horse. And I was at a show, and there's this young kid that I thought was an exceptional young rider, and I really liked him. And I went over to him and I asked him if I could pay him to show my horse in the 13 and under, or I can't even remember what it was, but it was Region 16, and I just wanted this young kid to show this horse, and I was going to do whatever I could to do it. And he ended up showing the horse, and it was a hard class for him. His father was another trainer, and it was kind of interesting to deal with the whole situation of another trainer, but he did well with the horse. And what was really cool about it is he kept with training horses. And you all know him now as Dale Brown.
No way!
And
that's so great.
Dale and I were talking last week after his father died, and we were talking about that mare and how that mare kind of made him realize, I want to do this. I want to keep doing this for a living. And it's always amazed me that it's not what the horses win that changes anybody's life. It's what the horses do for the people. I've seen people that were sick. Linda Fennell, who's here, she's just recovered from cancer. She didn't go top 10. This show meant the world to her because, she's a cancer survivor. 30 years ago, she was showing horses. She made it back in the ring after 28 years. She's come back. And that kind of stuff does things for people. It does things for people's life, and it enriches our soul. And I think that's, when you get down to the Bedouin and what they thought of these horses, they weren't winning any national champions with these horses. They weren't showing them to be better than anybody else. It was all about this horse enriching their soul, enriching their life. But I've been around horses that have never won a national class, have never been to a horse show. I've seen those horses change more people's lives. Had an amazing little pony that was, I think I might have been talking about her last night, that was born premature, and she should have been a 17-hand horse. And I think she's going around down at Elizabeth Pizzonia's in Florida, making little kids' lives wonderful and getting more little kids into horses.
Can you share that story that you told me last night?
Yeah. We had a little mare, and she foaled, and she turned out to be a preemie. And we didn't think she was going to live, and we were standing there, and the vet was kind of telling me we were going to probably have to put her down. We already got pretty attached to her in the few hours that she was alive, and the vet and I were standing there, and this little foal stood up and reared up on its hind legs and started nursing off of its mother. And Ann Dwyer, who was the vet at the time, looked at me and said, "I think she's going to be just fine." And she ended up being just fine, and she ended up growing up being an unbelievable little kid's horse. And Jeff Allen's kids, who they've only shown her once or twice before they sold her, but those kids have won really well, and they've been big in the shows. And that little mare that was born, that we carried around and weighed 30-some pounds, 28 pounds when she was born, I think.
You literally carried her.
I would carry her over my shoulders and just walk around the farm with her. I actually would put her on horses while I was riding, drape her over the front of the horses. And when it came time to break her, people just got on her and they just rode her. And kids would go and fall asleep underneath her legs, and we'd yell at them, "Don't do that." "Oh, Belle will be fine. She doesn't care." Somewhere I have a video of Blake standing on top of her doing the Iron Cross, and he jumps off of her. And when he jumps off of her, he accidentally hits her in the butt with the whip, and she just stands there. And that's a horse that'll never win a national championship, and she'll get more kids into this business, and she'll make more lives happy and do more for the Arabian industry than probably some national champion stallion that'll win a class and everybody will forget about him in 10 years. In 10 years, there'll be kids just dreaming about Belle and how wonderful she was. Or, horses like Sienna that Dale Brown had. How old's Dale Brown? What's Dale Brown accomplished? He remembers a mare that never did anything past regionals as a performance horse, and she was good at regionals, but she wasn't a national champion under saddle. And, that's what Arabians do.